Through Quranic insight we gain wisdom's light. Through Quranic insight we gain wisdom's light. Illuminating our path to what is right. Illuminating our path to what is right.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Amma ba'd fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the program of Madani Channel, Quranic Insight. In the previous episode, we discussed the selected topic from Surah An-Nisa, the condemnation of stinginess. We talked about the definition of stinginess, condemnation of stinginess, its harms, causes, remedies, and more. Additionally, we highlighted the virtues and invocations outlined in Surah An-Nisa. In today's episode, we'll discuss a new topic from Surah Al-Ma'idah, fulfill your promises. We will explore the commands of Allah Almighty and the Holy Prophet ﷺ regarding promise, the definition of a promise, and the practices of our beloved Prophet ﷺ and his blessed companions in fulfilling promises. We will also cover the definition of breaking promises, its condemnation, the warnings associated with breaking promises, and much more. But before all of that, we will listen to a brief introduction to Surah Al-Ma'idah. Let's begin our episode with the virtue of sending durood upon the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever desires that Allah Almighty be pleased with him when he is presented before him should frequently send durood upon me. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear viewers, in terms of the order of the chapters, Surah Al-Ma'idah is the fifth. And in terms of the revelation of the Quran, it is the 112th. Surah Al-Ma'idah was revealed in Medina, except for the verse Al-Yawma Akmaltu Lakum Dinakum, which was revealed in the plain of Arafah on the occasion of Hajjatul Wada in Mecca. And the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited this verse in his last sermon. This chapter contains 16 rukus and 120 verses. In Arabic, Ma'idah means dining mat, and in verses 112 to 115 of this chapter, it is mentioned that the disciples of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam requested a dining mat with food from heaven, and Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam prayed to Allah Almighty for its descent. Due to this event, this chapter is named Al-Ma'idah. Dear viewers, the subjects described in this chapter are as follows. Muslims are commanded to fulfill all lawful agreements and are informed about which animals are impermissible and which are permissible for them. They are instructed to testify with justice and to avoid injustice. The punishment for theft and robbery is explained. The prohibition of alcohol and gambling is mentioned, and the warning against abandoning Quranic commands is given. Muslims are commanded to reform themselves, and the method of reforming oneself is also described. It is also stated that they should help each other in righteous and pious deeds, and cooperation in sinful and rebellious acts is forbidden. Dear viewers, in today's episode, we will discuss the topic of promise from these subjects. Let's begin our topic. Dear viewers, in building and shaping society, many elements hold importance, and one of the key elements is keeping promises. This creates a balance in society that leads to a pleasant environment. It also resolves both temporary and permanent conflicts. However, if someone makes a promise but fails to fulfill it on time, it creates a kind of bitterness. This is why keeping promises is given extraordinary importance in Islam. Commanding to fulfill promises, Allah Almighty proclaims in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil-uqud. Translation from Kanzul Irfan, O you who believe, fulfill all oaths. Dear viewers, fulfilling promises and standing by one's word is a hallmark of Islamic teachings and the identity of a true Muslim. Honesty and fulfilling promises are esteemed qualities in a person's character. Indeed, no society or community can progress until it holds the fulfillment of promises in high regard. Keeping promises is essentially a guarantee for the stability of society. Strengthening this support requires constant assurance, which is often provided through promises. Fulfilling promises fosters strong relationships, facilitates transactions, promotes peace, and builds mutual trust. This is why Islam places great emphasis on keeping promises. The Quran and Hadith frequently command that promises should be fulfilled because on Judgment Day one will be questioned about them. Allah Almighty proclaims, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Translation from Kanzul Irfan, and fulfill your oath. The oath will be questioned. This blessed verse also commands the fulfillment of promises, whether they are made to Allah Almighty or to people. A promise to Allah Almighty involves committing to His worship and obedience. Promises made to others include every permissible promise. A promise refers to a commitment that a person takes upon himself to fulfill. Dear viewers, our beloved and blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the importance of fulfilling promises through his teachings and guidance. Hence, Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abul Hamsa radiyallahu anhu states, I bought something from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam before the declaration of his prophethood, and there was a balance remaining. I promised to bring it to him at the same place, but I forgot that day, and the next day as well. Then on the third day I remembered and went to the place. I found him sallallahu alaihi wasallam still there. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O young man, you have caused me some trouble. I have been waiting for you here for 3 days. Allahu Akbar. Did you hear how our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam waited at the same spot for 3 days to fulfill a promise? There are countless inspiring examples of fulfilling promises from the blessed life of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam even kept promises made to his enemies, even if it meant potential harm. When the Muslims were significantly outnumbered by the non-Muslims during the Battle of Badr, 2 companions of the Prophet, Sayyidina Huzaifa bin Yaman and Sayyidina Hasil radiyallahu anhuma, were captured by the disbelievers. At that time, every single man was crucial for the Muslims due to their small numbers. The disbelievers released them on the condition that they would not join the Muslim army in battle against them. Upon their return, they informed the Holy Prophet ﷺ of the incident and expressed their desire to fight against the disbelievers despite the promise made under compulsion. The Holy Prophet ﷺ responded, absolutely not. You must fulfill your promise and return from the battlefield. We Muslims will keep our promises in all circumstances. Dear viewers, the companions of the beloved Prophet ﷺ learned the lesson of fulfilling promises from the last Prophet ﷺ, and they demonstrated it in their lives. Hence, when the passing of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Amr ibn As radiyallahu anhuma drew near, he said, a Qurayshi person had asked me for my daughter's hand, and I ambiguously promised him, I swear by the Lord, I do not want to meet Allah Almighty with the third sign of hypocrisy. I make you all witnesses that I have married off my daughter to him. Similarly, our pious predecessors, radiyallahu anhum, also exemplified fulfilling promises through their actions. Hence, Ghaus-e Azam rahmatullahi alayhi states, in a journey, someone became my companion. Once he seated me in a place and left, promising to return. I sat there for a year. Then he returned and left again with the same promise. This happened 3 times. Finally, he came back and said, I am Khizr. Dear viewers, these incidents give us an idea of how important fulfilling promises was in the eyes of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his blessed companions alayhim ridwan, and our pious predecessors rahimahumullah. And it was because fulfilling promises is indeed an attribute of Allah Almighty. Allah Almighty proclaims, Inna Allah la yukhliful mi'ad. Translation from Kanzul Irfan, Allah does not go against His word. Dear viewers, Allah Almighty wants to exemplify the attributes of fulfilling promises among His bondsmen as well. That is why Allah Almighty has commanded in the Holy Quran on multiple instances to fulfill promises. Allah Almighty has designated fulfilling promises as a quality of the believers. The Holy Quran also praises those who fulfill their promises. Praising Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, Allah Almighty proclaims, translation from Kanzul Irfan, he was true to his word. The beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also admired those who fulfill their promises and held them in the highest regard. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best among you are those who fulfill their promises. Hence, if we wish to be counted among the best people, we should adopt the trait of fulfilling promises. Whether the promise is made to a Muslim or a non-Muslim, it should always be honored without fail. As Hakim al-Ummah, Mufti Ahmad Yar Khan Naimi rahmatullahi alayhi states, fulfilling promises is essential. Whether you make a promise to a Muslim or a non-Muslim, to a loved one or someone else, or to teachers, scholars, prophets, or Allah Almighty, fulfill all promises you make. If someone intends to fulfill a promise but is unable to do so due to a valid excuse or compulsion, he is not considered sinful. Another blessed hadith narrates that our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam guaranteed paradise in return for 6 things, one of which includes safeguarding promises. Unfortunately, our current state regarding fulfilling promises is not commendable. Rather, breaking promises has become an ordinary thing for us. In our society, one major wrongdoing among many is the act of breaking promises or not fulfilling agreements deliberately. In various aspects of life, such as business dealings, borrowing money, marriage, and others, breach of promise is prevalent. In business transactions, promises are often made to delay time. The intention to pay the full amount is absent, and new promises are made on each due date. Breaking promises is a grave act, and because of this, neither farz nor nafl is accepted. Hence, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, whoever breaks a promise with a Muslim, there is the curse of Allah Almighty, the angels, and all mankind upon him, and no farz act will be accepted from him, nor any nafl act. Dear viewers, breaking a promise is not befitting for a Muslim. The Holy Prophet ﷺ counted breaking a promise among the qualities of hypocrisy and labeled the one who breaks promises as a hypocrite. Sayyidina Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu narrated that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, there are 3 things that if found in a person indicate hypocrisy, even if he is diligent in prayers and fasting. Number 1, when he speaks, he lies. Number 2, when he makes a promise, he breaks it. And number 3, when he is entrusted with something, he betrays that trust. Dear viewers, failing to fulfill a promise after making it is called a breach of promise. The religion of Islam has not merely emphasized fulfilling promises, it has also warned of Allah Almighty's punishment if someone fails to fulfill them. Allah Almighty proclaims, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَشْتَرُونَ بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ وَأَيْمَانِهِمْ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا أُولَٰئِكَ لَا خَلَاقَ لَهُمْ فِي الْآخِرَةِ وَلَا يُكَلِّمُهُمُ اللَّهُ وَلَا يَنظُرُ إِلَيْهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلَا يُزَكِّيهِمْ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Translation from Kanzul Irfan, indeed those who exchange the covenant of Allah and their oaths for a trivial sum, there is no share for them in the hereafter, and Allah will neither speak to them nor look upon them with mercy on the day of judgment, and He will not purify them. There is painful punishment for them. This verse mentions 5 warnings for those who break their promises. Number 1, they will not receive any share of blessings in paradise. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said that Allah Almighty proclaims, on Judgment Day I will stand against 3 persons. 1 who promises in my name and then breaks that promise. The second one is the person who sells a free person and consumes the price. And a third, who hires a laborer and takes full work from him, but does not pay him his wage. Number 2, Allah Almighty will not speak to those who break their promises. Number 3, Allah Almighty will not cast His merciful attention to them on Judgment Day. Number 4, Allah Almighty will not forgive their sins because breaking promises involves violating someone else's rights, and forgiveness will not be granted until the person wronged forgives them. And number 5, they will face a painful punishment. The beloved Prophet ﷺ said, for every betrayer, a flag will be raised on the day of resurrection, and it will be announced, this is the betrayal of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. The person who breaks his promises will be fully disgraced on Judgment Day. A promise is even more serious than a debt. Dear viewers, a promise is an extremely serious thing. The beloved Prophet ﷺ said, a promise is like a debt. In fact, more serious than it. In another place, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, a promise is a gift. This means that just as it's inappropriate to take back a gift after giving it, similarly, one should not go back on his promise. Dear viewers, if promises are fulfilled, all matters remain correct. However, if promises are not fulfilled and a breach occurs in any matter, then disturbance begins. Relationships deteriorate and trust in each other diminishes. The one who breaches a promise suffers more harm than just financial and worldly losses, as his worldly and afterlife are both ruined. On Judgment Day, the promise breaker will be humiliated. He falls in the eyes of people, loses trust, and others become cautious in dealing with him where promises are involved. Therefore, Allah Almighty has commanded in the Quran at several places to fulfill promises, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ emphasized fulfilling commitments the most. Sayyidina Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu states, whenever the Holy Prophet ﷺ addressed us in his sermons, he always emphasized this point. A person who has no honesty has no faith, and a person who does not uphold his commitments does not truly follow any religion. Allahu Akbar. This means that whoever betrays trust is not a perfect believer, and whoever breaks a promise is not perfect in his religion. Dear viewers, from this blessed hadith it is evident that the effects of a Muslim's religion should also be visible in his relationships with others. Merely labeling the acts of worship as religion is insufficient. True religion is achieved when the acts of worship are accompanied by righteous conduct. Therefore, alongside maintaining regular prayers and fasting, special attention must be given to fulfilling commitments and other dealings. We should always remember Allah Almighty's commandment, Innal ahda kana mas'ula. The oath will be questioned, to avoid any thoughts of breaking promises. Dear viewers, one aspect regarding fulfilling commitments is that adults should set a positive example with children in this matter. Sometimes a child may stubbornly insist on something, and parents or elders may promise to pacify him, but then fail to fulfill that promise. Such behavior deeply impacts a child's upbringing. The child learns that making promises and not fulfilling them is acceptable, which can lead them to not hesitate in breaking promises when they grow up. Therefore, if parents or any adult in the household makes a promise to a child, they should ensure to fulfill it so that it does not negatively affect the child's upbringing. May Allah Almighty enable us to fulfill our promises. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Dear viewers, today we began a new Quranic chapter, Surah Al-Ma'idah. We briefly discussed the overview of this chapter. After that, we discussed the selected topic from this chapter, fulfill your promises, and explored Allah Almighty's commands and the teachings of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam regarding promises. We highlighted the definition of a promise and the importance of fulfilling it, and also mentioned the exemplary practices of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and his blessed companions in this regard. Furthermore, we discussed the condemnation of breaking promises, the consequences of such actions, and other related teachings. May Allah Almighty accept our endeavors. Inshallah, we'll be back in the next episode with a new topic. Keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
Through Quranic insight we gain wisdom's light. Through Quranic insight we gain wisdom's light. Illuminating our path to what is right. Illuminating our path to what is right.